Hi, folks. We're going to talk about knights and kings and fire and air today, but let's get the boring stuff out of the way first. This is a quick timeline of relevant events in modern tarot history. In 1887 was the formation of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn in London. In 1888, Samuel Liddell Mathers, one of the founders of the Golden Dawn, writes Book T, The Tarot, with Harriet Falcon. It describes in detail what the 78 cards of a tarot deck should look like and exactly how they correlate with Kabbalistic, astrological, and elemental systems. For many years, the content of Book T remained secret, known only to those inside the society. By the early 1900s, the Golden Dawn begins to dissolve into splinter groups like Stella Matutina, which Harriet Falcon and her husband joined. In 1909, the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot was first published, designed by Arthur Edward Waite and illustrated by Pamela Colman Smith, both of whom were members of the Golden Dawn with access to Book T. In 1934, Israel Regardie, at the time an up-and-coming occultist, briefly joined Stella Matutina. From 1938 to 1940, Regardie, now living in the United States, publishes a series of Stella Matutina rituals and ceremonies, including Mathers and Falcon's Book T, The Tarot from the Golden Dawn, much to the chagrin of many, many occultists who thought such things should stay secret. In 1944, Aleister Crowley, himself a previous member of the Golden Dawn with access to Book T, and Lady Freda Harris finish up their multi-year Thoth Tarot. And last but not least, in 1977, US Games publishes the Golden Dawn Tarot, illustrated by Robert Wang under the direction of Israel Regardie, who at this point has become a major writer in the occult world. Wang introduces this deck as the only truly esoteric deck ever to be published, and it does more or less follow the descriptions in Book T to a T. The point here is that Waite, Crowley, and Regardie, as far as we know, were all referring to the same Book T when they designed their decks. So why all the discrepancies and confusion? What exactly is going on with the elemental nature of kings and knights and princes and lords in modern tarot? And why don't we all agree? Here's my theory. In Book T, Mathers throws the term king around almost interchangeably with knight, lord, and prince. But we need to start at the beginning. Hopefully everyone watching is aware that the four suits of tarot have elemental associations too. So to make things simpler today, I'll only be showing samples from the Pentacles Discs suit. This is almost universally considered the Earth suit. So what we're trying to determine today is which cards to assign to Fire of Earth and Air of Earth. Let's pull up Book T. Each court card is actually addressed in 3 places. First, in the list of titles. For the 2 cards in question, we see the Knight of Pentacles is the Lord of the wide and fertile land, the King of the spirits of earth. For those counting, that's Knight, Lord, and King, all used to refer to the same card. And the King of Pentacles is the Prince of the Chariot of Earth. Even here, we have 2 different titles. Already we can see that clear and succinct nomenclature was not Mathers' strong suit. Although I will say, having read many works from other occultists of that era, I think verboseness must have been trending. Moving on to the next section, we have both cards referenced again, indirectly, within groups. We have the 4 kings, or figures mounted on steeds, and the 4 princes, figures seated in chariots. And it's happened already. Knights have become kings. Within the very pages of Book T, we seem to have a discrepancy, and we aren't done yet. Here are our final descriptions of Fire of Earth and Air of Earth. The Lord of the wide and fertile land, the King of the spirits of earth, Knight of Pentacles, Fire of Earth. And the Prince of the chariot of earth, King of Pentacles, Air of Earth. That's right, kings have now hopped down to air. The problem with Book T is if you just read a little snippet here or there, you can easily miss the overall elemental gist. I absolutely get why there's confusion about this. Book T is confusing. But I'm also absolutely convinced that Arthur Edward Waite, a significant and involved member of the Golden Dawn, did not intend his knights to be air. Nowhere in Book T are any knights ever heir. It is the kings that are jumping back and forth here, or at least the title of king. If we pare it down to the basic descriptors, there's a very simple formula. If it's a figure mounted on a horse, it's fire. If it's a figure seated on a throne or chariot, it's air. The RWS Knight of Pentacles and the Thoth Knight of Discs are both, therefore, fire of earth. The king and the prince are both air of earth. Don't believe me? Let's check out the astrological assignments. The king-prince discussed in air of earth is associated with Taurus. That's why there's bull imagery here. It's the same reason the RWS King of Wands has Leo lion imagery. Waite intended these cards to align with the Golden Dawn prescriptions. Crowley and Rigardi, both of whom published their decks long after Waite, remember, just got a little creative with which of Mather's many names they chose for their courts. Crowley demoted his kings to princes, and Rigardi promoted his knights to kings. Mathers did both these things himself at times within the very pages of Book T, as we've just seen. Everyone ultimately played by the rules. Even Aleister Crowley didn't go off script here. So, why do people think otherwise? It's not uncommon at all for modern tarot readers to equate RWS knights with air. And I get it. Because of Kabbalistic correlations that I won't get into here, the fire court must come first when presented in order. To expand on that, the full order must be fire, water, air, earth. To this day, we're used to seeing most tarot decks still come in this order suit-wise. Book T itself is, of course, presented in this order. Wands, cups, swords, pentacles, and knight, queen, king, knave. The problem, of course, is that this system has the knight outranking the king. I think this is why Crowley demoted his kings to princes and why Rigardi promoted his knights to kings. These two cherry-picked titles from Book T to better suit a traditional medieval hierarchy. Waite didn't seem to care about the court elements. In fact, every edition of the Pictorial Key to the Tarot that I've ever seen has listed his kings, that is, the air element, first. Was this a mistake? An oversight? Or perhaps an errant edit by one of the many, many hands that have helped to publish his manuscript and deck since 1909? Maybe Waite and Pixie didn't have anything to do with the formatting and order at all. Regardless, because of Waite's choice of titles, and possibly even his presentation of the deck, tarot readers have been trying to resolve this hierarchy for decades, usually by making knights a whole different element. If it were up to me, we'd just reorder our decks. But anyway, if I'm right about all this, does it really matter? Nah. Obviously, if things already make sense to you in a different way, go with it. Of course, on a personal note, I've always felt fiery, active knights and airy, political kings made the most sense to me. But that's just me, and tarot interpretations should be personal. Do double check those deacon wheels, though. If you think your birth date correlates with an RWS king or knight, you may have some wiggle room. Thanks for tuning in to my yearly post, and take care, folks.